3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! Uno out. How did you win? I only had a stacked deck. Oh, true. What's up? New intro. Hey, Lauren. That one did? That's cool.
Where is everybody?
Oh.
When the time changes too much.
Man, second service is going to be crazy fast. Second service is going to be nuts. What's up, everybody? The ceiling is up, that's correct. What else is up?
The sky.
Anything else? The sky? Rain?
Something.
Rain starts up, comes down.
Something.
Tiffany pulling, everyone. Tiffany pulling. Hey, all right. Cisco Balthazar. It's just Tucker, but yeah.
Yeah, sure.
All right, how's everybody doing? Time change, man. Time change. They're all sleeping still. They're like, oh man, we are sleeping.
You have no sleep.
Turn down my background music, 4th chord. My theme music. All right. What's up, everyone? Beer time. Red Bull is up. Do you have Red Bull?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. But I guess so. That's right.
I was about to say, hush your mouth.
Hush your mouth. Don't tell that to a Coca-Cola, man. Jeez Louise. All right.
Monster's the best.
How was your week? Tucker has a question. Oh no, he's just horns up. Horns down. Boomer soon.
Tucker's a big monster fan.
Oh yeah?
How many did you have today, Tucker?
1 so far?
How big was it? 24?
Okay, how's your week?
Good.
It was there. 2 people had an awesome week. Okay. Muy bien.
I worked yesterday.
You worked? I gotta go into work today.
I worked
I think
yesterday.
the record would be
Oh, D now, yeah. How was D now? It's good. Was it good? Are you tired?
Yeah, I'm tired.
Especially losing an hour or 2. Who was? Did they stay at your house?
No,
Where did you stay at?
the Alberts.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's right. I saw you just kept Instagramming his son. He was like, he was in his own element. Oh my gosh!
Tim.
Who's in there? It's just Tiff. Okay, she's good. She's good. What's up, Aspen? Oh, is it open again? All right, AGW is open again. Woo! Ice cream for days. What'd you do, Carson? That's okay.
Too bad.
But you also went to Savannah.
Yeah.
How was that?
Boring.
Oh, it was boring for Hudson, but you had fun. Okay, so JoJo played baseball. How did that go, JoJo? Where did he go? There he is. He's over there. He's still asleep too. Nice. Nice. I saw him in uniform the other day. Those are sharp. Those look good. All right. What else happened this week? One more thing. What is it, Isabel? But you're here. You're alive. Oh yeah, that's a sweet celebrate that. Good job, Kendall. Are you on the beam? Like that? Yeah, I'm on the beam. I can do that. All right, last one. What is it?
I had track meet.
Track meet. Game practice meet. Tomatoes motto. Get 'em. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right, what are we talking about this month? Somebody help me out.
May?
Yeah, there we go. Good job, Carson. Way to read the screens. All right. Anybody have any examples this week of what we talked about last week, of individuality? Go ahead, next screen.
Okay.
Discovering who you are meant to be. Anyone do anything this week that God has blessed you with for your talents? Baseball?
No, soccer.
Soccer. What else?
I played against Isabel when I won. Well,
Okay.
I did not lacrosse.
All right. They didn't bless you with lacrosse skills? Hey, it's okay. You're out there. You're out there. What is it, Isabel?
What?
What? Your hands up.
Oh,
You tell me what.
swimming. But this weekend, like this coming weekend, I have like a really, really big meet.
Swimming.
So
That's Harold Zimmerman.
Miss Lawrence telling us her good looks, and she's been making me do a bunch of stuff around the house. So I think that's pretty good.
Good looks is a talent. I'm very
Hey.
No, me and Jeremy are up there.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's
That's true.
okay. Yeah, there's a song from Draymond.
Oh, did you see Captain Marvel?
That was awesome.
Is it legit? If you guys stay after the credits too, I'm sure it ties into the new Avengers, right? Yeah, come on. I'm hoping I can see that. It's perfect. It came out on International Women's Day too. It's like girl power. Let's go. All right, what's the verse of the month? Psalm something. 139:14. Somebody help me out. Tyler, go ahead, buddy.
How you think is amazing and wonderful. I praise you for that. What you have done is wonderful. I know that very well. Psalm 139:14.
Thank you, sir. There you go. It's not up there, so it's not.
You don't know that.
You don't know that. It's not
Don't know
cited.
that.
Lori told us last week.
You don't
All
know
right.
that.
Next announcement.
Don't.
Darkness to Light training for Next Gen volunteers. When is it? March what?
17th
17th.
or 24th.
March 24th.
Something.
We don't know. We don't know.
24th.
If you got time, be here. What time? 1 to 3? Is that right? After church. It's a good training. If you've coached any sort of recreation sports, you have to take it. It's actually really good. So if you come and take it. You have to sign up? Yes. Sign up. Go. Next. Buskers! Ah! Today's the last day to RSVP. I think. Today's the 10th, right? Yep. Don't forget to RSVP with your ministry lead. Yes, ma'am.
It's my dad's birthday today.
Wow. All right. Happy birthday, Coach Drew.
Can we sing happy birthday and your birthday?
Coach E.
No.
Yeah.
He's not in here.
But just like
No.
he is.
You can go sing him happy birthday when you see him later.
Okay.
Yeah. Today's last day to RSVP. Don't be like me and RSVP too late, because I do that all the time. And I already did, like 2 weeks ago. Booyah. Yes, right. I'm not going to miss the Oscars. I got to get my second Oscar. Come on.
Second lifetime achievement.
Next. Extravaganza. Hey, all right. It's skydiving Easter Bunny? What? Wow, you got to be here for that. April 13th, 10 to 1 p.m. at Carrollton High School, Bishop Stadium. We're having a skydiving buddy. What's he jumping out of?
A helicopter.
A really high helicopter. This can be
It's
good.
gonna drop down, pick him up, take him up, and the bunny's gonna drop.
Oh, sweet.
What time is he doing that?
What time's the skydiving part?
Wait, what?
Weather pending. Skydiving buddy, we've been talking about it the whole time. How'd you miss that?
Is that a Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday.
Wait, we're not on the Saturday? Yeah, I want to do it.
Saturday. It's 14:50. Next. All right, 6th grade boys movie night, March 22nd. That's coming up. 12 days from now. 6 to 8, conference rooms 1 and 2. I don't know what movie you're watching. Next. 5th grade girls, lock in March 22nd, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Ooh, that's the same day. Whoa.
That's one day before my birthday.
Hey, all right. Next. Bring a sleeping bag, even though you won't use it. 5th grade boys camping trip. Woo! Yeah, I got one. One is excited. I mean, we talked to your dad. We would work that out. We worked it out. Because dads are coming too.
I'm working that night.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. Because the date's up there, right? Yeah. Next. Next announcement. Chocolate fondue. Fondue for you. 6th grade girls. April 28th, 12:30 to 2:30. $10. Brunch in the Mustard Seed Cafe. That's going to be a good day. I'm coming. I'm crashing that party too. Next. Camp Kid Gym. Yeah! Is there a new impossible shot? Shoot. Shot?
Yes, basketball. It's basketball. Yeah, it's the basketball, so you gotta do it through the basketball and this little here.
Where's the basketball can? Like, how far is it?
It's right here.
You have
about
to
right
stand
here.
like
You gotta shoot it.
It's so easy.
Oh, they're calling you out. They're calling you out.
It's a normal basketball that goes over a door,
Ah.
but it's got to go through the basketball into a little bucket.
Into a little one. And if it bounces out, it doesn't count.
Ah, I got you.
But it counts if it bounces off in it.
It's gotta stay
So
in.
once it goes to the hoops, it counts.
What's up, Kate? Kate, what's up there? All right. Yeah, what's next? We're not watching videos, like, takes up too much time. CIY Mix, rising 7th graders. Tucker, Isabel, you going?
Gabe is.
Gabe's going. I signed him up this month. And let's hope I don't have to fill out his forms 8,000 times this year. Tucker.
What?
Nothing.
Are you talking about how you don't fill out a
YouTube page, what are we at?
Ah!
What are we at? What is it? Oh, we're about to break 300, Corey. 293. Look, Jimmy Fallon broke 20 million this week. We're breaking 300. I mean, tomato, right? It's all relative. It's all relative.
Yeah, but we're going for Jesus.
All right, next. It's this easy to subscribe. If you haven't done it already, do it. 293. I just like that we keep consistently getting more every week. Hey, we can get a big push for YouTube second service when everyone shows up. All right, that's it. I got a couple more announcements. Shrek the musical. Cisco and Lauren's daughter is teenage young, correct?
Yeah.
Right? All right, and that starts next weekend. Actually, this Thursday, March 14th through Sunday, and then it's also the following weekend. Tickets are pretty cheap too, like $15 or something. I looked online the other day. So if you want to go to Shrek, check that out. And we have a third service starting April 14th.
Wait, don't we already have
April 14th. Fourth service.
Third Sunday.
Sorry. So we'll probably have more about that soon. Okay, that's a lot of announcements. Okay, I need 2 adult volunteers and 1 child volunteer who already picked beforehand. Hudson. Okay, I need 2 adult volunteers. Come on.
Me.
Tucker, give me 1. Chase. Perfect. Okay. We're gonna play a game. Okay. You're gonna use. Where's my game stuff at? Oh, it's right there. Okay, let's see. Do I have all the other stuff?
Oh, Tucker.
I guess we're just gonna use that. Okay. I
What'd you say
need.
about me?
Tucker needs somebody to help him. Who wants to help Tucker? Jonathan wants to help Tucker. All right, who wants to help Huddy? Let's get a lady. Lydia, come on. And who would like to help Chase?
Come on, you guys.
Piper, you want to help Chase? All right, come on, Piper. Welcome to 456, Piper. We like to have a good time in here. Okay, the helpers. Who's my helpers? You're not my helper, Chase. Oh my goodness. Who is this guy? Who brought him in? Okay, you guys, the helpers. You have sheep wool behind you. Okay, now we're supposed to have tape or something, but I don't see it, so we're not gonna worry about it. You have to get your sheep dressed with the wool, okay? So sheep, if you're a sheep, you might want to figure something out, okay? And you can't take the wool off. You gotta use it later. So you gotta keep the wool on. If you get hot, sorry, you volunteer. All right, let's give them 1 minute. The best dressed sheep, you win a prize for your life group or your small group. Piper, what grade are you in? 4th. You can win some candy for your 4th grade girl.
Let's go, Piper!
All right, ready? Let's go. You can help them out, sheep too, if you want. Ooh, that's good. That's a good look. Chase, I think you should start rocking scarves. It's a good look for you, buddy. Good. Good, that's good. Yeah, there we go.
Get her on the board, Johnny, not the same spot.
I like that look for you. That's good. You're like hidden sheep.
Wait, is that a goat?
Piper's killing it over here. Honey looks like he looks like one of those like Russian people. Well, you know what I'm talking. They're all winterized.
I look like the good year.
Yeah. How much time we got? That's that. All right. 5, 4, 3. Help me out.
2, 1.
Yeah, Piper, you did great. All right. Okay, we got a cheer. We're gonna do a cheer to tell. All right. Okay, if you think Tucker's the best sheep, let's hear it. It's okay. If you think Hudson's the best sheep, let's hear it. If you think Chase is the best sheep, let's hear it. That's good. Chase. I think it's Chase. Yeah, Hudson.
Stand up, Hudson.
Hudson. Yeah, that's tough. All right.
What about Tucker?
Tucker. All right, we'll say Hudson and Chase for the very close second. Good job, everyone. Thanks for playing. You have to keep your wool on because we need it. We need it for the story. We need it for the story. All right, I'm going to pray. Miss Brittany's bringing the word today and the message. Careful, honey.
Good job, Nate.
Good job.
Good job.
We'll get a prize. We'll get a prize for the winners after the message here in live group time. Good job, Piper. Thanks for participating. All right, Brittany's going to come up here. You can crank the music down if you want, and she's going to speak. I'm going to pray for her, and we'll get started. All right, Father God, thank you for today. God, thank you for these kids. God, I just ask that you speak through Brittany and the message today, and God, just talking about how we're made through you, God. And just speak through her, and these kids listen and they hear it. In your name we pray. Amen.
Hey guys!
Hi.
Hey Brittany! How are y'all doing? Doing good? You doing good? How you feel a little warm in there? Yeah? A little bit? Who's going to Camp Pit Jam?
Woo!
Alright, awesome. Well, we are so glad to have you guys here on this day of time change. Who's a little I'm a little sleepy. It was hard to wake up this morning, losing that hour. But we are so glad you're here. I have a question. How many of you guys have ever been lost? Anybody been lost? Where were you lost? Like, where were you?
Disney World.
Oh my goodness. Oh, he got lost in Disney World. Ooh, that's a big old place. Where'd you get lost?
CVS.
CVS. Okay, that's a little smaller than Disney World, right? Okay. Where'd you get lost? A NASCAR race. Lots of people there. Whew, that's scary. What about you, Hunter?
The mall on Black Friday.
Oh my goodness, the mall on Black Friday. Where'd you get lost? Walmart. That's pretty scary too. On a trail in the woods. Okay, that's real scary. Okay, that's scary. What about you? And Chick-fil-A, that's a little smaller.
How do you say lost at
A
Chick-fil-A?
little smaller. All right, last one. Hold on, I can't hear. You got lost on a cruise ship. Whew, well, that's pretty limited, but still pretty big. All right, so when you got lost, raise your hand if you were like frightened or scared, right? Yeah.
CBS.
Well, I'm gonna tell you a story about one time when I was driving and I got lost. Who's ever heard of Uber? Anybody? Okay, so a few years ago, but when I was getting married, I was like, okay, I want to make some extra money. I'm going to drive Uber, which is not safe and you should not do it. But anyway, so I was driving Uber, and when you're an Uber driver, you are like really reliant on what? Who knows? GPS. It gets you everywhere you go, right? It gets you to the customer. It gets you away from the where the customer wants to go, right? So I had my GPS, and it told me I'm going to this wedding venue, right, in Douglasville, right? Not far. Douglasville's not big, right? No big deal. So I'm going to this wedding venue, and then I get there, and it's like huge, and it's dark, and there were like lots of roads, and I was like, okay, all right, we're good. I'm gonna find it. So I went through and I found it. We're good. Everything's great. And these two girls get in my car, and I'm leaving, and I have to take them all the way to Atlanta. I'm like, okay, no big deal. Been to Atlanta. It'll be fine. But then, on my way out, I have it in my GPS. I'm following my GPS. I'm like, everything's good. Everything's great. The next thing I know, I'm like on a dirt road with these strangers in my car. Like, it's completely dark. There's trees everywhere. I'm still on the wedding venue site somehow, right? And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, there's like a cliff, like these huge ditches beside me. I needed to turn around. I couldn't. I was terrified. And at that moment, I realized I'm lost. I'm lost, and these strangers are in the back of my car needing me to get them home safe, and I'm lost. And so, of course, you take your GPS and you're like, please, help me, help me, help me, help me. And eventually I got out of there and I got them home safely. But that moment you realize I'm lost is a terrifying moment. And prior to that moment, you don't think you're lost, right? You're good. You're like, oh, I'm going. I'm getting through here. Same thing at Disney World. You're like, I'm in Disney World. This place is awesome. Like, secretly, you're lost from your parents, and you don't even know it yet until you know it, right? Okay, well, that kind of plays into the story that we're going to learn about today that's told by Jesus. And it's kind of cool because we talked about it before, and it's kind of talking about sheep, right? You guys, we talked about sheep today a little bit. We got some sheep up in here. Okay, so it's kind of about sheep, and it's about lost sheep. Pretty cool, right? So you guys all have a Bible, and I want you guys to turn to Luke. And as you're turning to Luke, I want you to think of these questions. Have you ever wondered if you've been lost? Have you ever wondered before you were lost if you were lost? Do we get that question? Have you ever wondered before you knew you were lost if you were lost? Have you? One sec. We're turning to Luke. Luke is in the New Testament. And it's Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and I will tell you the verse in just a few seconds, okay? I'll tell you in just a few seconds. Okay. Also, another question I want you to think of is, what if we can actually be lost when it comes to God? What if we can actually be lost when it comes to God? I mean, like, not physically lost, like He can't find us, but like, we're lost when it comes to God. Is that possible? And is it possible to be lost in our relationship with God without even knowing it? So, we're going to check out the book of Luke. It's the third book in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke. It's when Jesus spoke to the people who followed Him. Okay? He often spoke in a parable. Who knows what a parable is? Anybody? What's a parable?
Story.
Okay, it's like a fictional story, right? What's the purpose of Him telling that parable? It always has a lesson for people to learn, that's right. So, Luke includes many of Jesus' parables throughout this book, and the one that we're diving in today is a parable. So it's a fiction story that's used to teach a lesson, okay? So, I'm going to have my volunteers up. My sheep volunteers. Come on up. Come on up stage.
I look like a sheep that's like, boom. You look like a monkey.
You look like you broke both your
You guys
eyes.
look absolutely lovely.
You look like a man.
Beautiful little sheep.
Full body.
Excellent. Okay, so now if we're going to have sheep, let me scoot this way. We also need a shepherd.
Shepherd.
Shepherd!
Moo.
Oh, shepherd. Oh. What are you eating there?
Shepherd's pie, of course.
Naturally. Okay. Alright, well, okay, we got our shepherd. Come on up with all of your sheep up here. Oh, thanks for being here. So good to see you in your lovely shepherd attire and your shepherd's pie.
Hey, how's everyone doing? It's nice to see. It's nice to see you too. Did you know EWE is another word for sheep, albeit a female sheep, but that's okay.
Oh. All right. Well, I can tell when we regret this. Okay, here we go.
You guys look glamorous. It's great to be here. Will you?
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep going. There's no stopping you.
Yeah, no more jokes.
Is there?
No more jokes. I heard you loud and clear.
All right. Well, okay. Well, this is about right. Okay. So we're going to start, like I said, in Luke chapter 15. So big 1-5 in your Bibles. You can find that. Big 1-5. Big 15. Verse 1. All right, thumbs up when you got it. Chapter 15, verse 1. Awesome. So when we read one of Jesus' parables, we should try to understand why he's telling it in the first place. So as we're reading it, I want you to be thinking, why could Jesus be telling us this? Okay? Why could he be telling us? He didn't tell stories just to tell stories, okay? Usually they were connected to something, and he had a purpose of telling them, okay? So here in Luke 15, 1-2, we begin reading, and it says, the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus, but the Pharisees and the teachers of the law were whispering among themselves. They said, this man welcomes sinners and eats with them. Someone raise your hand and let me know, what is a Pharisee? What's a Pharisee? Oh. Right, so they were the teachers of the time, right? They were the teachers of the time, okay? And they didn't really like to be around people that weren't, let's say, they didn't know the law, right? They didn't know the Bible. So if people were living in sin and they didn't know the law, the Pharisees basically did not want to be around them. Okay, so here we have Jesus, and he's surrounded by people, who make other people nervous, right? Including tax collectors and people with a reputation of being sinners. In Jesus' day, these were the lost people, the ones who were far away from God. Tax collectors were often scam artists or thieves. Who wants to hang out with a thief? Anybody? Okay, cool.
Oh, wait, no.
And, they were sinners. I mean, that kind of speaks for itself. And Jesus surrounds himself with these people, questionable people. And it has everyone else talking, and not in a good way. In fact, they're starting to question Jesus because of the people he hung out with. So they're starting to say, how can this be anybody special if he hangs out with all of these sinners, right? So what could Jesus do? He could have turned around and blasted them out with a powerful speech, then said, I'm right and you're wrong, and how dare you question me, right? Because Jesus knew what they were thinking. He knew their hearts. He could have done that. But instead, he chose to tell them a story. So let's continue with verses 3-4. It says, then Jesus told them a story. He said, suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Won't he leave the 99 in the open country? All right, so let's before we go any further, let's pretend like he stopped here, okay? And he changed the story. Don't keep reading, because we're going to show you a different way he possibly could have ended this story, okay? So let's start the story over and imagine what he could have said. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them.
Don't be lost. That's it.
Get lost.
Okay. Perfect. I'm just gonna put my.
That's fine. That's fine. Oh, okay.
I'm a good sheep. I don't
Hey, have you guys seen Hudson?
No.
Nah.
Oh man. Well, it's just Hudson. No big deal. I don't really care.
Okay, so suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. You should be happy you have others because it's probably long gone.
Just one.
Okay. That's one way Jesus could have finished the story or the parable. But there's actually more to it. Okay? Check this out. We're going to go ahead and we're going to keep reading. This is going to be Luke 15, verse 4, the whole verse. He says, suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Won't he leave 99 in the open country? Won't he go and look for the one lost sheep until he finds it?
Oh my gosh. Where's Hudson? Have you guys seen Hudson? I gotta find Hudson.
Check inside the right.
That.
Don't check inside the right.
No.
Who would hide in the
Hudson, what are you doing? What are you doing? There you are. Come here. Look, no, turn around right here. Come here. You stop, young man. Young sheep. How dare you run off? What would have happened if you would have gotten eaten? You know? What would have happened? You'd be in a belly. And I wouldn't have any wool. We couldn't do anything. I couldn't make money for that's what it's about. It's about making money for me. I gotta sell my wool to make money. To line my pockets. Alright? So you know what? You just stay. Because you were to run off, you just stay, do your thing, until you think you're old enough. It's cool, brother. It's cool. So you just, whatever, you can wander around, go get eaten. I don't care what you do. You can get eaten by lions or bears or whatever. Get out my face.
Or this, suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Won't he leave the 99 in the open country? Won't he go and look for the one lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, wouldn't he make him feel really bad for getting lost in the first place? Okay, that's another reason that Jesus could have told the story. But that wasn't quite it. We're going to continue in verse 4 through 5. It says, suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Won't he leave the 99 in the open country? Won't he go and look for one lost sheep until he finds it? When he finds it, he will joyfully put it on his shoulders.
You guys seen Hudson? Oh my gosh, I gotta find Hudson. Hudson, where are you? There he is, I see him wandering. Hudson, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I found you, I can't believe it. Woo-hoo-hoo! Yeah.
You took his wool. You're a sheep now.
YOLO.
Don't you mean
YOLO. You only live once. Is that it?
We live twice.
That's it.
What do you mean by that?
You only live once. EWE. You.
So you're proud of him? Or
mean, I'm glad I found him.
Okay, well, wow, okay. Suppose one of you, let's pretend this is Jesus' story. It's not really, but let's pretend. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Won't he leave 99 in the open country? Won't he go and look for the one lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he will joyfully put him on his shoulders and celebrate the sheep's decision to leave the flock behind and make a name for itself, no matter what the cost. Okay, that's another reason Jesus could have told the story. But that's not quite it. Let's read the rest to figure out what exactly Jesus told. But before then, let's give these guys a round of applause. Woo! Thanks for all of your help. I know you're probably sweating.
Sweating is an understatement.
Thank you, guys.
You can leave your wool.
All right, one last time. Let's read the actual story. Anybody want to read it for me, like loud and proud? You got to stand up and yell. Go ahead, read it for me. Read verses 3 through 6. It's okay. Oh, New Testament. Yeah. Yeah, stand up. Be an announcer. Read it loud and proud to the crowd.
Levi's
It
got
is
it.
also.
I never wanted to.
Mike. Oh, yes.
Oh.
Come on up. And you have the mic.
Oh,
Don't
Tyler.
drop it. It might break.
Then Jesus told them a story. He said, suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Won't he leave the 99 in the open country? Won't he go and look for the one lost sheep until he finds it? When he finds it, he will joyfully put it on his shoulders and go home. Then he will call his friends and neighbors together. He will say, be joyful with me. I have found my lost sheep.
Huh. Thank you. Thank you for reading that for us. What is the shepherd's reaction to losing his sheep? What is the shepherd's reaction? He's happy that he found the sheep. That's right. So he's overjoyed. Like, he's not just a little happy, like, yay, you're back. Like, he puts him over his shoulder, right? And he's like, yes, you're back. You're here. I cannot be more excited. I am stoked. Okay? Now, they were celebrating this lost sheep. He calls his friends and his neighbors because they have to celebrate that he found one sheep. I mean, come on. This guy had 100 sheep. 100. He lost one. He left. How many did he leave? Let's do some little math. He left 99 over here. They were unprotected. To go find one. And when he found him, even though he risked the lives of all of his other sheep, right, by walking away from them, he found him and he celebrated. And he brought him back there to celebrate with the other sheep, if they could celebrate, I guess. And he celebrated with all of his neighbors and his family. He's so happy because he found what was lost. He found what was lost. So, if we look at Luke 15:7, it says, I tell you, it will be the same in heaven. There will be great joy when one sinner turns away from his sin. So, why is Jesus hanging out with the tax collectors and the sinners? Anybody? Why is he hanging out with these people? Okay. Well, the lesson he just taught, it was for them to hear, but it was also for the Pharisees to hear as well. What was he trying? Why was he hanging out with those people?
Because they're lost.
Because they're lost. And what is his goal? What does he want to accomplish with these lost people? Yeah. He wants them to find their way back where? To God. That's right. So the whole purpose that Jesus was telling this story was to make it known that he's hanging out with these sinners, these lost people, so that he can bring them back, he can rescue them, and they can be saved, be one with God, and then it will be what? Celebrated. It'll be celebrated. Okay, so the thing about the lost sheep is that sometimes they might not even know that they're lost. They wander away, and before they know it, they don't know their way back. Kind of like, in our stories earlier, like when you were lost at Disney World, you were looking at something really cool. You had no idea you were lost, right? Right? And then you found out you were lost, right? These sheep often don't even know that they're lost. But thankfully, they have a good shepherd who leaves everything behind to go find the lost sheep. So in this story, if we're sheep, who is the shepherd? Jesus. Yes, Jesus is the shepherd. Here's the truth. In this story, Jesus tells God wants us to have a relationship with every single person, no matter what they're like, what they've done, or how lost they might be. Jesus is the good shepherd, right? And he's out to find lost sheep so that he can rejoice in bringing them back. So God sends us out to find those lost sheep as well, as his people, as his church. God sent Jesus after you and me because he loved us so much. He couldn't even imagine us being out and being lost and being away from everyone. God loved you so much that he came just for you. That's a great love. So, we're about to go into worship, and as we go into worship, and then later as you go into small groups, I want you to be thinking about some questions. Think about this parable and how Jesus is a good shepherd searching for lost sheep. What does it mean to be found by the shepherd and brought home? And how does that make you feel about God's love for you? Those are some things I really want you guys to be thinking about during worship. I want you to be talking about during small group. How does it make you feel that you were lost and God left everything to come and find you? If you guys would pray with me. Hey God, I just thank you and I praise you that you loved me so incredibly much that even when I didn't know I was lost, even when I was living for myself and doing what I wanted to do and not even thinking about you, you came and you rescued me. You saved me. You found me and you brought me back home. And not only did you bring me home, but you celebrated with everyone that I was back and that I was home. I just thank you so much for that love story, God. I thank you for the sacrifice that you made for me and each and every person in here, God. I ask that you be with us as we come to worship, and we just thank you and we praise you for how graceful you are and how much you love us. In your son's name I pray. Amen. All right, if you guys stand up.